Hey everybody, it's Dave with No Chaser, and today's topic is about the daunting idea that if you are an alcoholic or an addict and you want to be in recovery, it means that you cannot drink or get high ever again. Never. That being in recovery means you must be abstinent forever. Forever? Forever, ever, forever, ever? Classic Outcast reference, nailed it. But yes, this is something that really, I mean, whether it's people new in recovery or whether people considering it's almost like a non-starter in their head. Like it kind of breaks down into two categories, or sometimes both at the same time. But sometimes people are just like, I can't do that. I can't. Like, there's no way I'm going to go the rest of my life without drinking or ever getting high again. Just nothing for the rest of my life. No way. I'm not going to be able to do that. And then the other category is like I don't think I want to do that. I don't like right now, my life kind of got in shambles or got worse or some consequences have come up, but I don't think I want to go the rest of my life without ever getting drunk again. Never. Words like never and forever are pretty weighty, but for like the first thing, but like there's no way I can. One thing is that you know you don't have to do the rest of your life right now. In fact, you can't do the rest of your life right now. The only thing you can do right now is today. Honestly, you may hear it a lot, but it's because there's a lot of truth to it. You just do things a day at a time. And actually, that's not just for recovery. That's for like everything in life. Whatever big commitment you want to make or change or whatever pursuit that you have thing you want to do, you do it at a day at a time. That's how it gets accomplished. And so if you try to consider that's just all you're going to do is just one day at a time. Just believe that you can do a day and just keep with that mindset. Thinking about the future, obviously, or sometimes goes into these spirals and this needless worry. How many times I've spent just worrying about stuff that never even happened or was never going to happen, or hypothetical scenarios, like torture myself over hypotheticals, things that I'm not even sure will occur, but man, it would suck if they did, so I don't want to do it. So, man. But now for the other sort of side of it, like you think about like I don't want to. Or you just think like I'm not gonna want to do that. Like there's gonna be a point I'm gonna want to join in people with some drinking, the holidays or some get-togethers, or just smoke a little weed, maybe like because that's one of those things, right? Is that if you're talking about drugs and alcohol, with drugs, it's a little bit more set in stone about the never doing it again. There's not really any good reason or circumstance why you would go back to smoking meth or fentanyl or doing crack or anything like that, right? And that's the tricky part about alcohol is that it's so ubiquitous and like universal and accepted, and it plays a part of so many people's lives or experiences. And it doesn't seem that bad. And if it doesn't seem that bad, you can sometimes think, well, it's not that bad, therefore it's not that bad for me. Maybe down the road you kind of forget your past or all that type of stuff. But here's the thing. If you are an alcoholic, then alcohol is meth, fentanyl, and crack. It is to you because that's the whole point, right? It doesn't matter. Again, it's how acceptable it is. It doesn't matter how much it's used by other people. None of that matters actually to you and what it does to you in your brain. And so, people, that's like I said, there's a lot of times it's a little bit easier with like alcoholism to like trick yourself into a sort of relapse. There's plenty of ways to trick yourself into a relapse with drugs, but kind of that route of just like, it's not that bad. Now, going back to the, like, I don't think I'd want to do that, or I'm never going to be in a place where I don't want to do it, Here's one of the things that, I've been told by so many people, one of the gifts of recovery is that they got to a point where they didn't think about it anymore. And not only that, they got to a point where they actively did not want to do it. That sobriety was much more preferable than being drunk or high. Like, honestly, in a sense that if they had a mulligan day or a free day, some day that existed out of time and you wouldn't have any consequences or nothing, they still wouldn't drink or use. They prefer sobriety. And, those same people that told me that they would tell me that I did not think it was possible. I did not think that was a mindset I could ever have. But that's the thing, right? Like, the forever is so daunting because most likely you're new in recovery or you're considering it. So you're thinking with that brain. with that brain that is still very vulnerable and attached to drugs and alcohol. But your brain changes. So yeah, if you think that you're going to have this brain for the rest of your life, it's going to seem like a super almost impossible struggle. Like always dealing with cravings and the obsession and being triggered and the temptations. Like, but people get past that. Like in a way, it's kind of like when I'll see a guy like jogging early in the morning out in the rain, and I'm just like, how does he do that? Like, oh my God, that is impossible. But here's the thing. I'm imagining that as me doing that right now. Like, he is built up to be able to do that. He is built, not only has he built up to be able to do that, he enjoys it. So, I mean, it's actually a thing he wants to do. And with so many people, that's how they said after prolonged recovery that they had gotten to that point. And, for me, just on a personal note, I had gotten to that point at a time, and that fell away from me, and in a sense, I do regret that. However, the one good thing is that it does make me hopeful. Like, as of right now, it makes me hopeful because I know that mind is possible. There was a time I really didn't think that mind was possible. And a lot of people that, find, again, for the rest of your life thing daunting, they're people that they haven't been not addicted, since whatever age they started using drugs or alcohol or whatever age they got hooked. So it's been so long since their mind has been anything but in the addicted mind, if you've never had prolonged recovery. And so, again, it's one of those difficult things to really anticipate or at least expect that your brain will change, because it's hard to imagine a mindset that you've never had. And so, like I had at one point, I just think it's impossible. Like, there's no way I'm getting to that point. But again, the very good thing about recovery and in life is that your mind does change. It's not set in stone in any sort of way. However, though, the one thing you could say that does not change, if you are, and again, this is going off the assumption that you are truly an alcoholic or an addict, is that your inability to moderate, that part does not change. And of all the horrific stories that I've heard regarding addiction to alcoholism, some of the worst is that people that had been clean and sober 10, 15, 20, 25 years and going back out, and their life almost just crumbles immediately. And some of them are so demoralized by the relapse that they never try to get help again, and they meet their end sooner and in a very bitter way. And it's awful. It's just because some people just think, with all this time that has passed, and then, maybe again, you start being forgetful of your past, or whatever sort of delusion creeps into your head, and you just think it'll be different because I'm a different person, right? I'm a different person than I was before. So therefore I will be different in the way I use chemicals and substances. And it just simply does not work that way if you're an alcoholic or an addict. And so that's one thing that if you are considering this, and this is something in your mind, if you're not sure that you're an alcoholic or an addict, that makes things, kind of difficult, because again, it's hard because it takes a lot of will and desire to make a sort of commitment like that, which again, you don't need to make the commitment for the rest of your life. I know a lot of people that are just like, I'm just going to be clean, sober today. I'm not saying I'm going to be, for the rest of my life. Like, even my counselor, who has over a decade in recovery and is a job as a drug and alcohol counselor, even she still says, like, I don't know about the future. I don't know, but I know today. And that's a good mindset to have, because that's all you can really control or handle. And so I know people, and like I said, I'm a person that struggled with too, because you can't imagine your mind in a way that it's never been before. And so it seems impossible. But over time, that's why one thing why I said recovery is that I know a lot of people, I did a video about this a little bit ago. A lot of people are just not doing drugs and alcohol, not practicing recovery. And that is hard. Like, if you have done no change and replaced your alcohol and drugs with nothing, then it's going to be really difficult for your mind to actually change, and you'll just be miserably sober. And that is almost impossible. I couldn't imagine doing that, because I've been in that state before too, where you're just white knuckling it, and it's awful. In fact, it's so awful that I'm just like, I might as well drink. And so I did. But again, just one of the two big things that try to intuit, or it might be helpful, is the whole thing is that you don't have to do the rest of your life right now, and you can, in fact can't, and your mind will change, and so you're anticipating or you're thinking about the future with the mind that you have now, and that will change for the better if you're in recovery. So, anyways, hope that helps. I have if you like these videos and whatnot. I also have a podcast that I co-host with one of my friends that's very interesting. Goes beyond topics of mental health or addiction and stuff like that. I have a book. All this stuff is in the description, and there's a way you can get the book for free. And I also have the confidential email in the little description dealy right under here, literally under there. Other than that, be well.